The internet was supposed to be a library. Instead, we turned it into a basement. In February 2011, a digital ghost named the Dread Pirate Roberts opened a door that the world has spent over a decade trying to lock. It was called the Silk Road. It wasn't just a website, it was a sovereign nation built of silicon and spite. During its 33 months of existence, it didn't just sell drugs, it sold the idea that the state was obsolete. It processed 9.5 million Bitcoin. It facilitated over 1 million unique transactions. It turned a soft-spoken physics student into the most successful drug kingpin of the digital age without him ever having to touch a brick of cocaine or look a rival in the eye. We watched as $1 billion in shadow equity flowed through a portal no thicker than a laptop screen. It was the most illegal business in the history of human commerce, a black hole in the fabric of the global economy that swallowed the rule of law and spat out a new, terrifying reality. We are talking about a marketplace where the currency was math and the law was code. It was $1 billion empire run from a San Francisco library, a kingdom built on the back of a browser designed by the Navy to keep spies safe. It was the ultimate irony of the information age, a tool for freedom used to build a supermarket for the abyss. But here is the paradox that breaks the brain of every economist who looks at the data. The Silk Road was the safest drug market in human history. In the physical world, the drug trade is a meat grinder. It is defined by the serrated edge of a knife and the cold muzzle of a pistol. It is territorial, bloody, and chaotic. But Ulbricht brought the civility of the suburban mall to the heroin trade. He implemented a feedback system. He brought the 5-star review to the fentanyl dealer. This was the great contradiction. A platform dedicated to the total subversion of the law functioned with more integrity than most legitimate corporations. Buyers and sellers who would normally be trying to kill each other were instead obsessing over their reputation scores. They were polite. They offered refunds. They competed on quality and shipping speed. It was a mirror image of Amazon, a dark reflection of the consumerist dream where the customer was always right, even if the customer was buying a rocket launcher or a bag of high-grade psilocybin. We saw the birth of brand loyalty in the underworld. The violence didn't disappear. It just became invisible, translated into the clean, sterile language of server logs and encrypted chat rooms. It was a peaceful revolution in a violent industry, a digital utopia built on a foundation of chemical dependency and federal felonies. The paradox remains. By making the illegal trade efficient and safe, Ulbricht made it more dangerous to the state than any street gang could ever hope to be. To understand how we got here, we have to look at the soil this weed grew in. Before the Silk Road, the dark web was a fragmented mess of IRC channels and primitive forums. It was the Wild West without the horses. In the 1970s, Stanford students used the ARPANET to buy weed, a digital handshake across a primitive wire. By the 2000s, the farmers' market tried to scale, but it made a fatal mistake. It trusted the banks, it used PayPal, it used Western Union, it left a paper trail that the DEA followed like a bloodhound. But then 2 technologies collided in a perfect storm. The first was Tor, the onion router. It was a gift from the US Navy, a way to bounce a signal around the globe until its origin was a ghost. The second was Bitcoin. In 2010, Bitcoin was a toy for libertarians and cypherpunks. It was a currency without a country, a coin without a face. Ross Ulbricht saw these 2 tools and realized they were the hammer and the anvil. He wasn't a career criminal. He was a Boy Scout with a physics degree and a head full of radical libertarian philosophy. He believed that the government's war on drugs was an assault on human property rights. He grew magic mushrooms in a cabin and sold them on his own site to prove the concept. He wasn't just building a store. He was building a manifesto. He took the name Dread Pirate Roberts from a movie character who was never one man, but a succession of men, an immortal mask that could never be arrested. He believed he had found the loophole in reality, a way to trade outside the reach of the taxman and the hangman. The mechanism was a masterpiece of clockwork engineering. Imagine a black box where you drop in a coin and a package appears on your doorstep 3 days later. That was the Silk Road. The site took a 6.23% commission on every sale, a digital tax for the anarchist king. The engine under the hood was the escrow system. When a buyer bought a kilo of MDMA, the Bitcoin didn't go to the seller. It went into the site's vault. The seller only got paid when the buyer clicked a button saying the product arrived. This solved the thief's dilemma. In the dark, no one can trust anyone, but everyone trusted the code. The reputation system acted as a social credit score for the damned. If a vendor sold bunk product, the community would tear them apart in the forums. If a buyer tried to scam, they were exiled. It was a self-regulating ecosystem that required no police, no courts, and no prisons. It even had social features like movie nights and book clubs, creating a sense of belonging among the outlaws. The site was a living organism, adapting to every threat. When the media found out, the site grew. When the Senate demanded its head, the site grew. It was a hydra made of fiber-optic cables. The logistical brilliance was in the mail. Thousands of packages moving through the U.S. Postal Service, hidden in plain sight, disguised as birthday gifts and eBay returns. The government's own infrastructure was the delivery vehicle for its greatest nightmare. Ulbricht sat at the center of this web, a spider in a San Francisco cafe, watching the world's contraband move across his screen in real time. But the machine had a flaw, and it wasn't in the code. It was in the human heart. The conclusion of the Silk Road is a dark study in how power rots the soul. As the pressure mounted, the sweet guy who loved liberty started talking about hits. He allegedly commissioned murders to protect his secrets, paying tens of thousands in Bitcoin to have people erased. The irony is staggering. The man who built a site to escape state violence ended up trying to buy the very thing he claimed to hate. He was scammed, of course. The killers were fake, the deaths were staged, but the intent was documented in his own journals. And then there were the hunters. The investigation revealed a rot that went both ways. Two federal agents, Carl Force and Sean Bridges, saw the mountain of Bitcoin and decided they wanted a piece. They didn't just investigate. They extorted. They stole. They staged fake deaths to squeeze more money out of Ulbricht. The keepers of the law became the very monsters they were sent to catch. It was a circle of corruption that ended in a San Francisco library. Ulbricht was caught with his laptop open, logged in as the pirate, his digital life laid bare for the FBI. He was sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years. No parole. A crushing weight designed to serve as a tombstone for the digital revolution. But the tombstone is empty. Silk Road 2.0, 3.0, AlphaBay, Hansa. The ghost of the marketplace keeps rising. We learned that you can kill the man, and you can seize the server, but you cannot delete the desire for the dark. The Silk Road proved that the world is more fragile than we think, and that once you show people how to step outside the system, they will never truly come back inside. We are living in the world Ross Ulbricht built. A world where the border between the legal and the illegal is just a line of code away from disappearing forever. The marketplace is closed, but the trade never stops. It just waits in the shadows for a new mask to wear.